In this video, I'll talk to you about domestic violence. A few years ago, my daughter spit at me in the face, right? I was pushing her out the door. I said, "Don't live in my house then." And I don't remember what we were arguing about. And so she spit on my face, but it didn't come out because she was so angry. It didn't. You got to practice spitting in order to be able to do it right. And so my first wife, one time I said something, and she, pow, just like that, hit me in the mouth. And I said, "Excellent." So I went, but I practice martial arts now, and I went like a whip. But I didn't, that's the way I do it. I went pow to her mouth after my daughter spit at me. And one finger caught her nose, and she got a nosebleed. And that nose bled from the front of the house, drip, 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 all the way to the bathroom. Then I said, "Oh boy, this time I am going to jail." But the spouse didn't call the police. The daughter didn't call the police. My son didn't call the police. And we didn't tell Grandma, and Grandma was out of town in another state. And so that was the first time I hit my daughter. That was the only time. Because I don't touch her anymore because I'm too powerful. That was the first time I hit her, and that was the last time I hit her. And that was about 2 times before I had hit this spouse. The way I hit her was the first time she grabbed my arm. She was yelling and she grabbed my arm, right? Can you see my arm? Who is it? Anna. What do you want?
Que Sheila me dio un montón de comida.
Muy bien.
Mashed potato y carne en gravy.
Ajá.
Entonces, para que le des a Iris una cosita de gravy con carne y una de mashed potato. Te la dejo dejar en una
Ok, déjame repetirte. Mashed potatoes and
carne en gravy.
Okay.
Entonces te lo voy a dejar en una bolsa de nylon, lo de ella.
Where? On the table? On dining table?
Sí, porque ella es la una. ¿Ok?
Alright.
Alright. Vení a comer, ¿y querés?
I just ate.
Oh, okay.
Talk about the spouse. So that time that she's a lunch lady. She brought home mashed potatoes and meat in a gravy. And I'm supposed to give it to another lady that will come later because it's just too much. So this particular spouse, by the way, back then grabbed my arm, and she had it, and she was gonna scratch me. And so that's when I punched her, and she went straight down. And I didn't mean to punch her. I just said no, and my arm went out, and she hit the floor and didn't get up. Then I said, "Oh, maybe this time I'm going to the police." Oh my goodness. And that was a reflex. With my daughter, it wasn't a reflex. But after she spit at me, I said, "Oh, I could do that. I could do that technique." And that didn't work. You see, my first spouse, she was into aerobics. But if you don't practice martial arts, you're very stiff. And if you practice Tai Chi Chuan, you're like a whip. You're like a whip. So when you hit the mouth like a whip, blood comes out. And it wasn't even hard. I went, boop. But So, and then of course my children have seen these things happen. Maybe they didn't see me punch her, but they saw their mother on the floor. And then the other time was when I was, well, I explained it in another video, was when this spouse was, she said take the kids to the backyard, but she was yelling about something, so I took the kids to the backyard, but then the big kid, he told my son girlfriend, and the big kid is a special kid, meaning special that he is slow of brain, and he will always be slow. He's maybe not always, but he is, his mind was 1 year old, but he could talk, all right? And he will probably stay at 1 year old for the next 20 years. And so my son punched him in the mouth, and then when the boy went, ow, but then the boy went back and said, girlfriend. So then my son punched him again. Finally, I grabbed the big boy, and I was pulling him back into the building, right back here. And the spouse said, well, she didn't say anything, but I only had been outside for, 5 seconds. We had not even cleared. I was still technically in the Florida room when this accident, my son punched him, happened. And so my son, by the way, didn't know what girlfriend was, but he knew what girl was, and he knew that he was a boy, and so that the other boy was calling him a girl. So then what happened was this spouse saw me coming in with the big boy, but she didn't want me inside the house, so she grabbed the door and pulled back. And I didn't have time to explain to her. I didn't have time to explain to her. And so I was wearing my sandals. And instantly I thought that she was going to smash my toenail and flip it backwards, which happened before when I was 20, when I was riding my bicycle with slippers or sandals. Don't always cover your feet when you're riding a bicycle. And so then one of my legs flew out, and then I was looking at which leg kicked her. I didn't even know which leg it was. And the spouse was on the floor again, but I brought the big boy in and gave him an ice cube, and he was still going ow, and he was bleeding, I think. And the spouse would have gotten up to hit me, but she saw that the boy was injured. And then one time, this one's not domestic violence, even though I got hit in the eye, or over here, under the eye, or I don't remember what it was. Yeah, it was under. Because I was playing around. I moved the sofa and I put it underneath the fan. Because as one kid said, you're just like my dad. And I said, really, big brother? How is it that I'm like your dad? Oh, he sleeps on the sofa all day too. He's one of the child care kids. But this one was a big brother. He was like 9 or something like that. And so, I sleep all day on the sofa like his dad. So what happened next was the fan, right? I put it there, and I was on the back of the sofa. My hand is the sofa here, right? And this is the spouse standing right here. And I jumped over, boom, and landed, and then we're both right next to each other. But the spouse got scared. She went, ah! And she hit me right in the eye, and I fell back on the sofa, on the chair part. But that's not domestic violence. That was just playing around. But one classmate, because we talk about domestic violence at school when I used to go to school, college, he mentioned how with the girlfriend he still has, now he was only 20, he mentioned how he lived with her or she came over, one or the other, but he had a waterbed. That tells you how rich he was, all right? But he was a kid, and he said that she was lying down in her part of the bed, and he got up on high, he got up on top of the dresser, and he jumped off. And he landed right next to her. But then she called the cops because she flew off of her bed and landed and hurt her head and everything. I don't know where she landed, maybe on the floor. And that she had called the cops because of what he did. But he said, I was just playing around. I wasn't, trying to hurt her or anything. But now he had a record also. I think they took him. I'm not sure if they took him or not, but I think that they did take him. Because we were talking about, are we allowed to conceal carry? And he wasn't 21 yet. I don't think he was. But he said he had a record and he couldn't conceal carry. Legally. All right, so all of these stories, right? And my stepdad in Miami did move in. When he came from Chicago, he did move in with my mother. And it took a lot of work to get him out of Chicago because he didn't want to get out. But then now he liked the Miami Beach because there were so many restaurants, and he likes restaurants. He likes going outside. He's a money spender. And so my mom did something and yelled at him or something, and he took off his belt. He got up off the bed, took off his belt, and then he hit the bed. But he said that the belt, one little bit hit her big toe or something, or her toe. So my mom called the cops, and he didn't get taken to jail. And I had to drive him around to all of these homeless shelters. And from there, he was there a good while, maybe 2 weeks. And then they found him an apartment for old people. Oh, wait a minute. Another thing that happened is he got over his fear. He started using the bus. Because my mother used to drive back then. And she still has a driver's license. I used to think about, should I call and take away her driver's license now? I mean, one time she came and the front of the car had been hit. A few days later, the back of the car had been hit. And I said, wait, I shouldn't let my mother drive anymore. But I didn't do anything. I didn't go to the driver's license. I didn't call to the cops or anything and say, take her driver's license away. What another relative did, he got her to go over there to where he lived. And over there she had to drive because, this relative, she loves him and everything, but she can't live with him because he comes home every 3 or 4 days, So like she's got to go and buy food, and it's too hot in that state. Too hot at all day long. You don't go out until 7 or 8 o'clock at night, Alright, so I talked to you about domestic violence. What you can do for domestic violence, the best thing is to live alone and only go, like I have 2 friends, they're not even friends of ours, they're friends of the women, right, the spouse, and this woman has women friends and their husbands. They're guys that don't sit still. One is a lawyer and one was a factory worker. And the factory worker, he doesn't sit down. He doesn't sit down. He comes in, he sits down, then he says, all right, let's go. He wants to leave again. He only eats like half what I eat. And maybe even 1/3 of that, 1/3 of what I eat. Because he eats, and he says, all right, let's go. He's the first one finished. He's not respectful in that way. So now he's 60-something. He's retired, 65 at least, right? 62, 65. And then the other one is a lawyer. He's also 60. And this lawyer doesn't sit down either. So you got to be like them. I tell my son, don't go to people's houses. Just go, get out. Like the electrician, he came here, right? He fixed a refrigerator or he fixed something with electricity and he left. He gets paid. The plumber, the same thing. They come in and the women, they say thank you and they treat him with respect, my mother and the spouse. Whereas I give a suggestion, what if we do this and make the air conditioner, instead of going to the attic, come out the top ceiling here, right where I can see it, and send it to every room instead of doing it through the ceiling. And both women just look at me like I'm insane, and that I am an idiot for suggesting that. And so I don't work. I said, all right, you're going to go give money? I mean, if you're going to bring the guy and he tells you, yo, you have a hole up in the ceiling, you need to fix that, or all your air conditioning is going to go, you're going to have a high electric bill. And the women say, we don't care, as long as we get a little bit of air conditioning, we'll just pump it. I mean, and then of course my mother agrees with the spouse. So like, to me, they're doing something is dumb and insult. They're doing something dumb. They're not fixing it the right way. All right, enjoy your life. Be better than I am.